Alright, hello. This is going over part A of this candy or box of candy FRQ question. Um, First thing that they tell us in the directions here is they've got a class called candy, and it only really has kind of one piece of data, which is a string representing what flavor it is, like grape or cherry or something like that. Okay, and then we're going to program in a separate class called box of candy, and that has a 2D array of candy objects. Okay, and so each one of those candies, again, just kind of has a flavor. Maybe has some other information, but they're not telling us about that information. Okay, and we got to write two methods. I guess first I'll show you this. This is what it looks like, right? We got a 2D array with a bunch of candy, and sometimes there's null if there's nothing in there, right? And then on part A, what it's going to have us do is actually kind of what the name says, we're going to move candy to the first row if it's possible. Okay, so they have like a long description of this or whatever, but like I honestly like to just look at the examples. I think that makes it the easiest. So you can see here they call it on a row. So on this one, actually sorry, they call move to candy first row. So this is our first row, but they call it with a column. So this input here is the column number. So in example 0, basically it's just going to return false because there's no candy it can move up. Okay, so basically that's what it's saying here is there's no candy in the row that can be moved up to rows. Sorry, no candy in the column that can be moved up to row 0. Okay, so it just returns false. To the move candy to the first row, if we call it with the second column, here's the next example. If we call it with the second column, that just straight up returns true because it's already got a piece of candy there. It's already got what it's want. All right, so that's what it's saying there. Okay, and then the final one is it says, okay, if we called it on, maybe I'll go back to this picture. If we called it on the third column, that's going to return true because there is candy to move up. And then we can move up either piece of candy. You can either move this one up here and put null here, or you could move up the grape one and put null down there. It says it doesn't really matter. So it gives you a picture of what it should look like after that. So it's saying if you call with column 2, you could have either moved up the cherry one and put null here, again, or you could have kept the cherry there and moved up the grape one up there. So this is kind of hard to see because you got to flip back and forth. But again, you're taking the cherry and moving it up to row 0, or you're taking the grape and moving it up to row 0. Okay, so that's kind of what's going on here. And basically I just kind of start with a couple if checks, like almost the ones that they did here. So basically, well, actually I do this one first. Like, if there's already candy there, just return true. Okay, so like when I first programmed this, I mean, there's a lot of ways to do it probably, but we're going to check, and again, we're using this 2D array there. So basically I'm going to do an if the box, and then the positions here can be a little bit goofy, but it's calling it based on a column. So it's calling it, like if they call it with column 1, right? Right, so this spot here would be column 1 and then row 0 all the time. So the index is this column that they pass in. Sorry, the column index is that, and then the row is 0. Okay, and I'm going to basically say if that's not null, meaning it has a piece of candy there, then I'm just going to return true. I don't have to move any pieces of candy or something because we already have a candy in the first row. So I just return saying, hey, there is candy there. That's just fine. Okay, and then if there's not candy there, then we got to search. Then we got to search through and see if there's candy anywhere in the current row. Okay, and so the way to do this is you actually fix the column number and loop the rows. So if I go back to their input, let's say I have 0 here, that's call, that's the input, and that stays at 0, and then the row just changes. The row would go 0, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I'm going to basically make a loop that loops through R going 0 less than the number of rows. Right? Remember, the number of rows is just box.length, which in the picture shown here would be 4. So we just start at 0 and go less than that length, and that'll go down this column. So we fix the column and loop the row. Okay, so I'm going to search. So basically I'm going to search through this column. And to do that, I'm going to do for int R equals 0. R is less than the number of columns. So box.length plus R. Okay, and then I need to check if there's a candy in each spot. So I'm going to check box, spot, row, column. Okay, and if it is not equal to null, that means there's a candy there. Okay, and if there's a candy, I want to move it up and then return true. Okay, so basically, to do that, let's go back and look at this visually. If we're moving one up, okay, so if I want to move, maybe I'll go back to this other picture, it'd be easier to see. If I want to, say, move this cherry up, I'm going to move this cherry to box position 0 and whatever column we're on. That was the input into the method. So I'm going to set that equal to be whatever we're in here. And remember, this is my R loop. So I'm going to set this to equal to be box position R and column. That's what this one is. And then after that, I just got to set this one to be null. So I'm going to do box R column where the candy used to be and set that equal to null to say it's not there anymore. I think that should work. Okay, so I just got to do box position 0, moving it up to the first row, is going to be equal the one where we found the candy, which is box R and column. And then again, just set the box RC, since there's not candy there anymore, set that equal to null. And then I just want to return true that I did find a piece of candy. Okay. And the final piece then is, if there wasn't candy in the beginning, if there wasn't candy already, and we didn't find one after we looked through, so back in our picture here, this should be like going all the way down and not finding candy. Then we return false that we didn't find candy. Okay, but that only happens after this for loop. Okay, so right here, I'm going to do return false, saying, well, I made it all the way through this column. I went all the way down through that column, and I didn't find any candy, so then I just returned false. Okay, so it's kind of like the name said, we move the candy up if we could. Okay, if there's already a candy there, that's great. Boom. Otherwise, we try to move one up, and if that doesn't work, moving them up, then we just return false, that we could not move candy to the first row. All right, that's it. Thanks for watching.